Milndavie Pottery in Strathblane, Scotland. You can buy a pack of clay from us, take it home to make what you would like to make, and the price includes bringing it back after it's bone dry and we will fire it for you. If you buy one of our clay at home packs, you can make a lot of different things, but this film is about how I made one of them. I'm going to use the end of my paintbrush and I'm going to draw a kind of circular brickwork. That's how I would describe it. So I've got concentric circles, the tortoiseshell bricks. I'm now going to use my textured roller and gently go over that, trying not to entirely take off the shape that I've made. Otherwise, that's a bit of a pointless activity. No, that's great. I can see my tortoiseshell brickwork and my textured roller. And now I've got a 13cm cutter and I'm going to push my tortoiseshell out very gently. I'm going to use a bowl from our kitchen because my paper plate bowls are not the right shape. I wanted something with more of a dome. The thing to remember is that you're going to turn your clay over, and that's because it's upside down in the bowl. I don't have to squash it right to the bottom, just to the point that I feel that I've made a tortoise shape that I'm quite happy with. Now you can see that where I've rolled it, I haven't rolled it very well and it's got lots of dents in it. When I'm squashing it into leg shape, I'm going to squash quite hard because I don't want these folds to create air bubbles. This isn't really the way you're meant to do it, but it's such a small piece that I'm going to be able to get away with it. But I'm giving it quite a decent squeeze to make sure that there's no air bubbles. So what I'm going to do now is try and make 4 tortoise legs that are all the same. So now I'm going to give him some little claws because I think that's what tortoises have at the end of their feet. When you're sticking the feet on, they're going to need to be up this way. I'm going to score some score lines on the bit of the foot that's going to stick on and some score lines in the place on the shell where it's going to stick. And then I'm using a tiny pot of water and just a normal brush. When you brush water onto the clay, you've created slip when the clay changes colour and goes lighter. And it's the slip that makes the clay stick. It acts like glue on clay. So I've put slip on the score lines on the tortoise shell and slips on the score lines on the tortoise foot. And then I've got to give it a decent squeeze. Might be ruining some of the texture on my tortoise shell, but I can mend that later. Okay. With my fingers, I'm just going to squeeze it a bit and that creates the side of its head. And in the side of its head, I'm going to stick eyes. Okay. And at the end of its face, 2 little nostrils and a mouth. Now, who would not realise that that was a tortoise? To stick it on, I'm going to put it here. So I'm going to have to put the scoring at the top of its head and here on the bowl, and then the slip. And give it a decent squeeze so that it really doesn't fall off. I'm going to leave it for about an hour. I'm going to put a ball of newspaper inside the tortoise, which will help it to keep its shape when I take it out of the bowl, because I don't want the feet of the tortoise to have to take its weight. It's very, very floppy. Poor tortoise. Here we go. Ready? And up. Oh, I think he's surviving. We're okay. All right. Peel the paper off. Oh, he's very tortoise-like. Okay. I'm going to put him down on a flat surface just for a short while so I can sort his feet out, and then put him back on his resting place to dry. So he's kept his newspaper in there. And actually he's just about right, I think. Anyway, I'm going to put him back on his perch now because I really want him not to put his weight on his feet while he dries. So he's a bit skewiff, but I think he's all right. So there we have him. Tortoise. He's going to dry like that for more than 6 hours before I move him. He's been drying now for a week, and I'm just going to tidy up a few bits and pieces. There's a safety precaution, which is that the dust that is created by doing that has a lot of silica in it, and silica is really bad for your lungs. So we highly recommend that you wear a mask. He's slightly wiggly on his feet, and to be honest, it's so slight that I'm not too bothered by that. I don't think you'd really notice it when it's on a shelf. But what I could do, if I wanted to spend the time, is I could work out which leg, because I think it's just one leg here at the back that is a little bit too long, and I could just sand a bit off that at this point. This is the last opportunity to do something about it. Run your hand over and just make sure that there's no kind of little lumps or bits that when it's fired, see here, there's a tiny burr, not much. You can just rub it off with your fingernail gently. When it's fired, all of the lumps will become harder and much less comfortable to touch because of that. You see this edge underneath of his shell. What I want to do is take a little bit of sandpaper and just take that off, being very careful. These bits that have been slipped and scored and stuck on, they're particularly precarious. They won't be safe on there until after they've been glazed. So I don't want to put them under any pressure and knock them off. You know, if one of his legs falls off, you could try sticking it back on with some slip, but it's destined to not go well, to be honest. I think I'm happy with that. Doesn't really matter what it looks like on the inside, because that won't show when it's on your shelf. Don't blow this dust away. Put it in the bin. Don't put it down your sink. I'm very clear that I want to have his legs a different colour, or her legs a different colour to the shell. The shell is going to be ancient jasper. So what I did was I looked on the Amico website on the layering section to work out what could I layer with ancient jasper from among what I've got. What I discovered was that I can layer with sky, and I don't know how that's going to look because I've never done it, but I'm going to paint my tortoise's feet and head with sky, and then I'm going to put ancient jasper over everything. 3 coats of sky and 3 coats of ancient jasper. Because I want to glaze under the feet of my tortoise in the kiln, I'm going to take one of these kiln shelf supports, which I know won't burn, and I'm actually going to sit him on top of that so that he will be hanging off the ground, so his feet will not touch the kiln. And so long as I don't paint underneath him when this sits on here, then that will work fine. I don't know whether you can see that where I've stuck his feet on, it's a bit cracked. It's not, I don't think it's a very good seal. So the glaze, I'm going to let the glaze just fill round in that seal a bit like glue, and that will also help to strengthen his feet, hopefully to keep them on for some time more. So here he is, my tortoise completely painted. You wouldn't really know that underneath these feet there's 3 layers of sky blue, but there are, and then there's 3 layers of ancient jasper. And it's a bit untidy underneath because I ran out of ancient jasper, but I had enough, so no panics. I think this will be fine when he goes in the kiln, and I look forward to showing you the finished result. I'm particularly pleased with how his feet and head have come out, because I'd never tried that layering before with the combination of glazes, and I'm really pleased with him. Lovely ornament.